If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are at on this planet, and welcome to Neely Fuller's Counter-Racist Code Show. I am one of the co-hosts, Mr. Bobby, and along with me is Gate, and here are some housekeeping items that we go through every week. You can support and promote the show by hitting the like button and share button. To watch the show live, go to YouTube at Produce Justice, Facebook and Instagram at Produce Justice Neely Fuller Jr., and you can also watch the show live at producejustice.com. Be aware that a replay of the show is available immediately on all the platforms. Now, to get on the show to share your thoughts, which we really encourage, please, ma'am, please, sir, do that. Click on the link in the feed and you will be prompted on what to do next. Many of you have done that and are doing that, and we would like for you to continue and more do that. We need and want your conversation. You can also find instructions on the website at producejustice.com. Now, feel free to read a passage from one of Mr. Fuller's books on air for discussion. And as you well know, you can get the books by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. Now, to contact us off of the air, send your questions and or comments to contact at producejustice.com. And we really appreciate those comments, whether they be considered negative or not, or just positive, whatever they are, send them in. We believe, like Mr. Fuller has indicated, VGQ. So we want to hear them because we want and desire to get better and better and producing. As you can see, some of the bugs are still there, but they're being worked out. Now, this is important. To order the books, go to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. Okay, I think that's all the housekeeping items I have to do today. Again, my name is Mr. Bobby, and with me is Gate. And Gate, I want to introduce you. I know you're still learning just as I am. The question I want to ask you before you introduce yourself, I got a email indicating that somebody is doing something with your saying that it's you and it's not you. Could you go over that, please, Mr. Gate? Here is Mr. Gate.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bobby. I'm not aware of this impersonator. If you can forward that to me, I'll be glad to investigate it. I will say this. There's a lot of impersonations going on online. People are using people's identity and pretending they're somebody that they're not. This happened with Mr. Fuller. It happened with me. It happened with practically anybody who has an online digital footprint. So if anybody out there who's using my name and or my words or saying they're pretending to be me, we'll find you soon enough, and we'll make sure that comes to an end. But when you start people start impersonating you, that means you're making an impact. You're making a impact. So anyway, thanks again. I am still learning. I'm Gate, and I have glad to be here with you today, Mr. Bobby, bringing you another show. This is Mr. Neely Fuller's Counter-Racist Code Show, And we are here every Tuesday at 9 a.m. And now one of our main goals is to keep Mr. Fuller's legacy alive. We are not here to co-opt or circumvent or replace Mr. Fuller. That's not the goal. What Mr. Fuller did say, however, is that he would like for us to use our own logic. We're not just here to parrot him. And he did write these 3 books. He wrote the original book back in 1984, and he wrote a word guide in 2010, and he wrote a revised and expanded edition of the book in 2016. And so we'll pull passages from the book, from the code book, from the word guide, and we also use Mr. Fuller's exact words from his broadcast that he did for the past 7 years. He did a couple of years on Talktainment, and he did a show on Blog Talk for 5 years. Mr. Bobby was the co-host, I was the producer, and we felt that the 2 of us were uniquely qualified to keep his legacy going. But the other thing that make us uniquely qualified to have this show is the listeners and the followers, people like yourself, people who tune in every week, and many have lent your voices to the discussion. We put a link in the feed to let you know how you can reach out to us and contact us and get your voice on the show live. So that link is in the feed. I'm going to pop it in there again right now. So if you have comments or commentary, feedback, you say something you agree with or disagree with, come on, put it on the air. Let's talk about it. Like I said, we're not a dictatorship here. Mr. Fuller, that was one of his quotes, his word as well. He said his book was not a dictatorship. As a matter of fact, let's start off the show today with some words from Mr. Fuller, where he actually said, look, I'm going to tell you how to use this book. You use it for logic. How can you use this book? If you're a logical thinking being, then this book can be used from a perspective of logic. You don't have to parrot. You don't have to agree with everything Mr. Fuller said. Let's just put that up, and we'll get Mr. Fuller's exact words on that particular topic.
Everything that is written in the code book is subject to the reader. It says at the beginning of the book, what? And always keep this in mind. If something doesn't apply to you or doesn't make sense to you, you don't adapt it. That's the United Independent thing. It's totally democratic. This textbook is more democratic than almost anything you'll find anywhere. It's not a dictatorship. You unite with logic, not the author of the book. It has nothing to do with Neely Fuller, really, even though Neely Fuller wrote it. It has to do with logic. And does it make sense? And will it work for you and not against you? Everything in all of these writings, and this is for everybody to hear, is questionable. And you're talking to the author of what you're reading. But the author of what you're reading is saying this, because this is in the book itself, in the introduction sections, and throughout the entire concept. That's why it's called United Independent. As an individual person, you're independent in making your decisions. Or I could have said individual. And it's always based on you being united, not with the author of a textbook for victims of white supremacy, or not with any so-called, quote-unquote, counter-racist organization. You unite with logic. And if it doesn't seem logical to you to follow this instruction or to utilize this information in the way it's presented, then bypass it.
Well, that was Mr. Fuller, as he was explaining how to use the book, and that the book is not a, as he would say, It's not a dictatorship. It's to be used and applied with logic. Let's talk about the topic we're going to talk about today. Let me get. Now today we're going to talk about confusion. How many times have you heard Mr. Fuller talk about confusion? Quite often. Just get the book and thumb through it. And Mr. Fuller was talking about confusion. And rightly so, because when you think about it, it confused people or a gullible people. A confused people are easy prey. Confused people are easily distracted, unfocused, delusional, and downright petty. So it should be easy to understand why the oppressors, the racists, and otherwise would like to keep people confused. So today we're going to talk about confusion. We're going to get some of Mr. Fuller's exact words and why he has this disdain for confusion. Some of Mr. Fuller's exact comments, these are from the code book. If you have the revised book or the original book, in the back of the book, Mr. Fuller wrote some quotes. These are like topics off the top of his mind. And he talked about confusion. One thing he said is that the racists would do all they can to help promote confusion among non-white people. And we gave you some reasons why. Because once you're confused, you're gullible, people can take advantage of you. You get petty, arguing among yourselves. He also said confusion can lead to despair and hostility when you're confused. He went further to say honesty and clarity are better than hypocrisy and confusion. So he wants you to be truthful. He also talked about educating yourself. Now, so we're going to tackle this topic today. We're going to spend a little more time on two areas of confusion that seem to be the most preponderant and the most effective when in the hands of the oppressor. And that's religious confusion and sexual confusion. Now, Mr. Fuller said the confusion applied in all 9 areas of activity. And he put in his book, his code book, 6 major racist strategies for confusion. I'm just going to read those 6 strategies. These are in the code book. And we do it, take your comments. We'll take some of your comments in a moment. Feel free to use the link to come in and join the conversation. Now, the 6 major racist confusion strategies are: 1 was racial classification confusion. That is classifying people by color and based on the word race. That's a form of confusion, in the words of Mr. Fuller. And I'm going to reiterate also, once again, that when I read from Mr. Fuller's book, these are his words and his beliefs. And sometimes I agree, sometimes I disagree. Usually when I disagree, I'll state it. Sometimes I may just go along and just get the word out and let you come in and voice your opinion. But we're reading now directly quotes from Mr. Fuller. He said another form of confusion is racial population dislocation. That's selectively forcing people, large and small, from remove them from one place to another. Another form of confusion he spoke about was racial population tailoring. That means killing large numbers of non-white people, either directly or indirectly, in selected areas. We're reading the words from Mr. Fuller's books. He said another form of confusion was racial showcasing confusion, taking large numbers of non-white people and putting them out front, but they're actually parroting the words of the racists. Another form of confusion was racial sexual confusion, and that's to dominate and mistreat non-white people by adding and subtracting from, multiplying and or dividing them along sex and non-sex, equal sex, toy sex, late sex, female, man, woman, gender. In other words, creating division along sexual identity. And of course, the last one in this book on the 6 major racist confusion strategies are white sacrifice confusion, whereas doing great harm to themselves to confuse people to thinking that racism does not exist. Now, we've heard taking some of the quotes from the book. What I'm going to do also is layer in some of Mr. Fuller's exact words on this topic. And for the record, if you haven't already, you can go to producejustice.com and you can actually see and hear Mr. Fuller and his exact words, his videos. You can go to the link at the top. It says past shows, and you can get some of these shows. Some of these clips that we play you are actually from the shows from the last 5 years of Mr. Fuller being on the show Blog Talk. Mr. Reginald Thomas said, can I provide the page numbers of the books? Okay, I would say let's start off on page 265 in the code book, where Mr. Fuller talks about religion. And he talks about sexual confusion quite a bit in page 276. Now, I'm going to get Mr. Bobby. You can go ahead and chime in here.
To me, what you are and what you have described, according to what Mr. Fuller said, is almost to exact the blueprint of Project 2025, because all that is nothing but confusion. All the 900 pages of them, if you look at it, if you really look at it, let me repeat that, if you really look at it and see what is going on now, it's the exact same thing, along with Agenda 47 and the hidden agendas that the racists are using. If you really look at it, I mean, objectively look at it, it's the leader is following a blueprint of confusion. Okay?
Mr. Bob, you're exactly right. Get here. No one should be surprised that when somebody is trying to marginalize you, control you, and oppress you, that they would use any tool in their arsenal. And when you're talking about the Project 2025 and other documents or strategies that have been used to marginalize and administer injustice to people, then confusion is right out of their playbook. So what we're going to do also, let's get Mr. Fuller's words up on some of this discussion. And once again, let me tell you how this show works. I will give you my take, and I will give you my take in a minute on how I feel like I'm going to encapsulate some of the things we talked about today. Also, once again, I'm putting in the feed the link that you can use to come onto the show and express your opinion. I have my own opinions. Mr. Bobby has his own opinions. Mr. Fuller wrote his book. And the way you can use the book, in case some people are saying, hey, well, look, I hear what you're saying, but I may not agree with this or I may disagree with that. Take the book, and I use it sometimes to confirm some of the things that I already feel about justice and injustice. Sometimes I use it to challenge me to do more research. And sometimes it causes me to say, well, I may not agree with that, but like Mr. Fuller said, we all have a right to speak our piece. All victims of racism have a say. You can't say because, well, I didn't experience that or I don't feel that way about it, that I don't have the right to talk about it. Well, I'm saying that you do. You have a right to voice your opinion, and Mr. Fuller made that very clear with his VGQ. Let's get a video of Mr. Fuller as he talks about uh, confusion in the 9 areas of activity. So hang on a second, let me get that up.
The racists thrive off of what? Confusion in all 9 areas of activity. The white supremacists look at the economic situation of the whole world, because that's how they think. They always think on a world scale. And they say, well, what's the economic situation with black people and white people at this very moment? Confusion. In education, I'm going to take control of that. Education is all about time and energy. It's all about economics. Everything is connected. How black people entertain themselves, then labor, law, how black people, where they work, how much work they do, what they're going to get paid for the work. Get in charge of that too. Law. If they come to court for anything, go through a whole lot of motions and then always have it come out that they lost more than they gained in what you call a court. Confusion. I mean, and then in all other areas of activity, after law, politics, how they vote, what they vote for, what they get for, by voting. Confusion. Religion, get control of that. They begin to think about the hereafter and who controls everything and all like that. And we let them know directly, indirectly. Well, there's a distant controller, but I am the upfront controller. So always listen to me. If you can't find me, ask somebody who knows where I am and then come looking for me. Bring your children too. All right, so I can tell them what to do, because none of you all know nothing when you're among yourselves, except how just moan and groan and talk about how things are, and then start fighting each other because you don't know what else to do. And then sex, of course, always have control of everything that black people do sexually. You know, tell them just don't have male and female, and they got 15 dozen other types of sex. Confusion. And then in war, I'll tell you who to fight, so don't worry about that. Mostly each other and how to go about doing it. And the way that I'll have you doing it is you'll love it. You'll only moan about it when you're getting killed. See, so that's basically what white supremacy is all about. Confusion. And what do they get out of it?
All right. You heard Mr. Fuller as he was talking about sexual confusion. He talked about economic confusion. He talked about religious confusion. He talked about how confusion is used in all 9 areas of activity. I mean, think about it. Let's be logical for a minute. If you're trying to dominate a people, if you're trying to control them, if you're trying to marginalize them, and you could use a tool such as confusion, wouldn't you also? Because it's so effective. And if you need to look no further, then look back at the last presidential election and how confused people became trying to decide on who to vote for to run the country. Some of these same tactics that we're talking about today were used by President Trump. It was a masterful job of confusing people. And not just around election time, it's daily. That's why Mr. Fuller addressed all 9 areas of activity. We have Terrence in the green room. And Terrence, if you're ready to come on, just wave your hand and we'll put you up on the stage and join our discussion today. All right, let's get Terrence up here and get his take on what we're talking about today. We're talking about confusion today. I read 6 areas of confusion that Mr. Fuller identified. He called those the 6 major racist strategies. They're on page 24 in the revised version of the United Independent Compensatory Code book. If you don't have a copy, go to producejustice.com, pick up your copy. You can pick up the original book. You can get the word guide. You can also get the expanded edition. There's also a bundle. You can get all 3 together. And feel free to join this show every Tuesday at 9 a.m. with Mr. Bobby. And I am Gate, one of the co-hosts. We also invite you to join the conversation as Terrence has. And we're going to bring him onto the stage right now to get his take on this topic. Terrence, welcome to the Mr. Fuller's Counter Racist Code Show.
Grand Rising, Mr. Bobby and Gate. Mr. Bobby, I hope you're doing okay. I thought you were getting a procedure done. Not you, Bobby.
Yeah, no. After the show, I'm planning on having the procedure done. Thank you for asking.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that goes well. I like to use a metaphor to describe confusion amongst the people that we're talking about. I liken it to a computer that is loaded with an operating system of Windows 11. Okay. And so the end user thinks that they're using this computer to do what they want to do. And then somebody, the usual suspect, if you will, has secretly loaded this computer with Macintosh, unbeknownst to the end user or the owner of the computer. All right, so now you have an operating system that is neither Macintosh or Windows. So that system is operating with the language called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. The behavior that the computer will be exhibiting or expressing is not going to be what the end user would hope it to be. But the end user is not really aware of it because they didn't know that the system was secretly loaded with Macintosh. And I think that a lot of us are operating with a brain computer that is full of a bunch of garbage. We don't know it, but our externalized expression shows it. And so oftentimes, as we've all learned from our brilliant prophet teacher, that we need to focus on what we can control, okay? And allow others to do or be whatever they are going to be, but take care of yourself. Do the best thing you can do for yourself to bring about constructive results. And that's all I have to say with my VTQ for today.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Terrence. Terrence likened confusion to computer. And that's a very poignant analogy. But also it goes into this logical thinking. And I'm looking at some of the comments coming in. Still learning. Can you read that, Mr. Bobby?
Okay. Let's see. A logical black person is often accused of going off, except confusing the white person. That's the words that were used to destruction in my suspected race. I can't read that last word there. Soldier. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what he's saying, it sounds like what Still Learning is saying. He's saying that when you use logic, you're accused of going off script. In other words, you're not following the program. And he's saying he was accused that by a suspected race soldier. Now, somebody said, this was Sack 7 said, how do we counter their confusion? Well, Mr. Fuller had a comeback. He said, educate. You must educate them and expose their hypocrisy. Because let's say if you're looking at the confusion of religion. I mean, when you think about religion, all you think about is goodness. I mean, that's what you should think about. You should think about goodness and giving and grace and helping the least of thee. But since as Mr. Fuller said, the religion of white supremacy is the worst religion and the most powerful religion, then it's best for non-white people to avoid speaking, acting, or against any religion except the religion of white supremacy. In other words, we've found ourselves sometimes fighting against each other. Oh, I'm a Lutheran, I'm a Protestant, I'm a Southern Baptist, I'm this, I'm that. That's part of the confusion. The only religion you should be fighting against is the religion of white supremacy. Okay? And then you have confusion of sexual confusion. And if you want to find the passage I just read, it came from page 265 in the code book. When it comes to sex, now, in the code book, I'm reading this from the code book. Mr. Fuller says, as long as white supremacy, racism exists, think, speak, act as if you expect the white supremacists to produce chaos, confusion, and many more forms of conflict between non-white males and non-white females. So he's saying that there's going to be this confusion and conflict and discord between non-white man and non-white woman. He says as long as white supremacy exists, remember to at all times blame all such conflict between non-white males and non-white females on the white people who participate in the maintenance of white supremacy. In other words, you're seeing all types of things popping up now online where they're creating this disharmony between black men and black women. You're seeing, it's almost like they're trying to create a war within the race. And then we get into the question about people start talking about things like homosexuality, lesbianism, and so forth. In the code book on the sex, Mr. Fuller says this: what's the basic reason that no non-white person should say anything that helps to promote or support homosexual and or lesbian anti-sex acts? Well, and I'll give you my take on this too. I'm reading from the book. I'm not saying I disagree or agree with what's being read here, but these are things that are in the book, and you can go back and apply your own logic. He said the white supremacists have been shown by their deeds that they are in favor of non-white people engaging in homosexual and or lesbian acts because they know that such acts between and among non-white people greatly help and maintain, expand, and or refine the system of white supremacy. And that this should be expected. Now, I'm giving you Mr. Fuller's take. Giving you Mr. Fuller's exact words. I'll give you my takes in a minute. Because I look at things slightly differently. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you what I think. And I'm going to also tell you that when I state my position, I'm stating it not to counter anything Mr. Fuller said. I'm speaking from a position of logic. I'm speaking from a position of Mr. Fuller provided these books, and he told us to take these books and apply logic. Don't follow the person, follow the logic. As thinking individuals, none of us should subscribe to cult mentality. When we start looking at thought, if we ever start sounding or acting like a cult, I'm out of here. I don't do that. I don't do cults. I don't do groupthink. I believe in individual thought, speech, and action. Now, collectively, we can be more forceful, more powerful when we align our thoughts, our speech, and our action. But some things we have to work out among ourselves. And some of these topics are that indeed. Mr. Bobby, go right ahead.
Oh, I'm just really I'm disagreeing with you because we do have to work out, keeping in mind that we must be codified in all of our actions, thought, speech, and action in order for it to be true. If we are delinquent in any one of those areas, then our message is not going to be clear and we will be accused of being racist. In fact, how can a black person really be a racist when you logically think about it? It is impossible. Even Fuller address that. It is impossible. Why? Because it is a system, and we do not have power or control in this system. Go ahead, Gate.
Well, I remember a while ago I went off to a driving range and I was confronted by a person who was a suspected white supremacist, and he called me a racist because I disagreed with some of the ideologies. I said nothing about him or his race or his beliefs. I just simply told him he brought the conversation up. I told him some of the things that I felt. I felt that we as a people need to be more circumspect and come together on certain issues, and that we need to fight white supremacy and racism. And so I was kind of, I wasn't jumping up and down. I wasn't foaming at the mouth. I was very respectful. But because I voiced my opinion in a knowledgeable, I talked about the different layers of racism and the individual, the institutional, the systemic. I talked about some of the racial trauma that our people have experienced. I talked about the stereotype threat. I talked about some of the institutional inertia feedback loops and all the things that have come together to create this system that's very formidable. And so when you are fighting against or you speak out against the actual racism that are perpetuated against you and your people, then you indeed are being called a racist. Once again, that's part of the confusion. And like I said earlier, and like the caller said, how do we combat it? I say continue to educate yourself in a respectful way. Don't be hostile, don't be violent. In a respectful way, educate yourself and expose the hypocrisy. And when we're talking about confusion and we're talking about the 9 areas of activity, it is replete with hypocrisy. I'm going to bring Bill up. Bill is in the green room. Bill, if you're ready, let me know and I can bring you on. If not, I'm going to keep talking here. Bring you on. Bill, welcome to the show. Bill has a
yeah. Bill, good morning. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Bill, we have an echo. Do you have anything else on over there besides your?
I do. I apologize. Hold on.
We have an echo. Let me bring Bill back in a second. All right, Bill, we're going to bring you back. Now, let me, before I get Bill up here, and maybe Bill I'll give him something else to chime in on. I'm going to give you some of my takes on this topic today. And like I say, I don't have to keep saying it, but I will say it anyway, because I am not Mr. Fuller. In case anybody hasn't already noticed, I'm Gate, a thinking mind Gate. Let me tell you my thoughts on this. I say that religious and sexual confusion of the 9 areas have been used probably more than others to act as a wedge issues. These are wedge issues. I'm putting on my political science hat. These are wedge issues. Wedge issues are used to divide people. And they have been very effectively used to cause distraction and confusion among non-white people. We can go all the way back to the Bible, during slavery time, when people were using the Bible and the curse of Ham to justify and legitimize slavery. Now, this is religion. People are using religion to justify slavery. Do you know on Sunday morning, 80% of the churches in this country are homogenized? They're divided by race. And race and religion is supposed to be about love and harmony and peace. But yet 80% of the people are in congregations of their own race. Missionaries who were supposed to go out and spread Christianity and religion around the world were really being used to reinforce racial hierarchy. I'm just giving you my take on how religion and sexual confusion has permeated our society and has been used to uphold racism and white supremacy. And then there's this concept of white nationalism, white nationalist Christianity, which is less about Jesus Christ and more about defending cultural identity rooted in white supremacy. So as you can see, this religious confusion is a vehicle of oppression, in addition to being used as a divisive issue. Now, the good thing about it, I mean, one thing about Black people, we've been very resourceful. Give us a lemon, we'll make lemonade. For all the misgivings we might have about religion, particularly in the Black community, it has been central to the abolition movement, the abolition of slavery, to the civil rights movement, and moving racial justice forward. And of course, there's a debate about that. We're not going to get into the Malcolm and Martin debate, but in a whole, when you've been handed a religion, in many cases, or adapting a religion, or a version of the religion that's not the original religion, you are under this system, and people have to do the best they can. And in many cases, I think people did a pretty masterful job of turning this religion around and using it as a force for good. So in a nutshell, religion has been used as a vehicle of racial oppression and a powerful source of resistance. So back to the question of the caller, how do we combat it? Take their words, take the tools that they use, that they hand us for oppression, and turn it back around. Expose the hypocrisy and use those very tools to help dismantle this system. We have Bill on the stage. Bill, let's try you again.
Good morning, gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Bill. What say you today?
I'm sorry, you guys can hear me, correct?
We do hear you, yes.
Oh, yeah, yes. I agree totally with what you're saying. And the code is those words. That's what the code is. It's the words in English, the so-called language English, that we're trying to gather a battery of words that, when used, work against white supremacy and work for the victims to dismiss any confusion and be able to transmit clear messages to one another. And so that is the code. It's supposed to continue to develop as events happen in the future. Each person is to keep a track of their own code and what works in different situations, and continue speaking. One of the key to religion is the statement in the code that the religion of white supremacy prevents all other religions. Prevents people from practicing all of the other religions. And I think that's one statement that I've found um, that's it's in the code, and Mr. Fuller has used it, but that statement usually gets to um, uh, eliminates a lot of confusion. Just making that statement and then analyzing whatever facts or people are talking about, that I found that tends to help clarify the logic. Just keep repeating that the religion of white supremacy prevents all people from practicing all other religions, and
Bill,
usually a logic falls out of that once you begin whatever conversation you're dealing with.
Bill, you have summed up the logic very succinctly, and you're right. If you, it goes back to Mr. Fuller's uh, signature statement about if you don't understand racism, white supremacy, how it is and how it works, then everything else is going to confuse you. And then religion is no exception. What I'm going to do is quickly talk on sexual confusion for a minute, because I read some statements from Mr. Fuller from his code book. And I'm going to, there's not necessarily a delineation between what Mr. Fuller feels and what I feel, but I do believe that when I look at sexual confusion, I have to say that I'm a believer that I don't believe they can't determine how they're going to be born, what sex they're going to be, uh, man, woman, in between, or whatever. I think that's something that we don't have control over as a person. And I'm not the one going to sit here and tell people what they should do in their bedroom, who they should marry, who they should not marry, and so forth. Because I feel like most things, sex is part of that wedge issue, the topic of sex. And sexual confusion is one of those wedge issues that have been used very effectively in upholding white supremacy and racism. I look at the past presidential election. We have marginalized people over here fighting, going at each other over bathrooms and who can marry who. While on the other side, they'll be picking your pockets and taking your rights away. So before you jump on these issues and plant your flag to die on a certain hill, that's your right. But do understand, go into it with your eyes wide open, that this is being used to divide. I'm not here to tell anybody what side to take on these issues. That's not my role. My role is to inform you that these issues are being used to divide. That's how confusion and distraction works. Yeah, fight about religion, fight about sexual identity, while I'm over here picking your pocket and taking away your rights, your right to vote, your right to buy a house in a certain neighborhood, the right to get a loan, the right to keep a job, while I'm laying off 300,000 black women. Fight over this sexual identity and religion, while I'm militarizing your cities. That's the objective. As Mr. Bobby said earlier, all of this, some of this was laid out in Project 2025, Mr. Bobby.
Yes, sir. Looking at some of the chats, Anthony Cross said, "Case in point is the confusion produced with the murder of Charlie Kirk. White sacrifice is an example of confusion and distraction. It is also a way that the racist white supremacists use as a narrative for their desired outcome." Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Still Learning says, Deuce Justice, are there any HBCUs and documentaries named after Martin, Malcolm, Megger? Yet children and young adults are still confused. Who produces the concept called education? See, these are very profound questions, and it's part of the cycle of confusion that is used as a weapon to keep us from joining forces together to dismantle the entire system. As Gate indicated, as Fuller indicated, it is in all 9 areas of people activity. It has to be dismantled or else, in all those areas, or else it will not work. Justice will not come through. Gate?
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. If this show does nothing else, what I like for it to do is to get us to introspect. You don't have to necessarily challenge your beliefs, but when you're dealing with a somebody who is oppressing you, who is giving injustice, and using some of your basic beliefs and ideas against you to cause confusion, then you have to put the brakes on. And that's why I picked out religious and sexual confusion of the 9 areas that Mr. Fuller he spoke of, is because these seem to be the party favorites. These seem to be the one that they choose the most because they seem to be the most effective. You if you want to get people fighting among themselves, I'm just telling you, go to a football game, go to school, go to church, go to any gathering, and bring up one of those topics. Racial identity. Man, people are ready to fight you. They're ready to put up their dukes and start fighting you. I don't want my kid in the same classroom with a trans person. I don't want this, that, the other. Well, that may be your right, but when you make those kind of proclamations, remember that that's not a coincidence that it's being put in your face every day. Most people just want to go about their lives. They want to go to work, run their businesses, put their kids in school, put a roof over their heads. But when you use sexual identity and religion, it keeps being pushed on you day in and day out. And that is what Mr. Fuller is saying. He's saying these things are being used intentionally to cause confusion. Mr. Bobby, let me get you up here.
Yeah, from the chat, Jelia Carter says, we can't be racist because we are not members of a race. Only members of a race are the people who invented the concept. That sounds just like Fuller, doesn't it? Way to go, July.
They say Mr. Fuller was ahead of his time. He was in time, and he can reach back and remind us of the good old days. I was I heard about Mr. Fuller through a friend, and I kept seeing his name pop up on people be quoting him. I kept hearing that quote that Mr. Fuller put out there, that signature quote. Matter of fact, I'm going to play it again just in case anybody who has not heard it lately. And it causes us to think. Mr. Fuller wants us to think. Okay. And so no matter what you say, whether you agree with me, or Mr. Bobby, or Mr. Fuller, or Bill, or Terrence, anybody who spoke on this platform, that's not my concern. My concern is that you think. Really. That's the whole idea. That's my idea. I want you to think. Let me put up this quote Mr. Fuller keeps quoting. You hear it at the beginning of the show. You're going to hear it again at the end of the show. I'm just going to put it up here one more time. We're going to put another quote.
If you do not understand white supremacy, racism, because white supremacy is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. I'm going to say that again. If you do not understand white supremacy, racism,
what it is. What is white supremacy and how it works? Everything else that you understand will only confuse you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that sums it up. Remember, Mr. Fuller keeps using that word confusion. It's part of his signature statement. If you don't understand what's going on, if you don't understand that if you look at these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, law, politics, sex, war, I may have missed 1 or 2. There's confusion to make you less effective and weaker against this system. We talked about the 6 areas that Mr. Fuller talked about. You can go to page 24 of the code book. If you don't have the book, you can go to producejustice.com. And we're coming toward the end of the show. I'm going to ask Bill if you had anything to close with. Bill, give you one more chance to speak if you have anything to add to before we close the show.
Fuller had said one time, and I found that it is very pertinent in the area that comes under all of the topics that come under sexual confusion. It is not about the basic statement is, in all of the discussion and most of the topics that come up under sexual confusion, the question is, a person is coming to you or a person is coming to me. So I'm going to speak from the point of view of me. A person is coming to me and talking about some form of sexual activity relating to males, females, or the suggestion might be males to males, males to multiple females, or whatever. The question that I want to know, or the answer to, is, you're coming to me with this, and how is it an improvement over the status quo?
Mm-hmm.
Now, people have preferences, and I think that's what you were addressing, and the people can have their preferences, but once you begin to bring it to another person, they should have a reason that this is an improvement.
Okay.
You're bringing this to me. How is this an improvement over what I'm doing now and what's going on? And you should be able to explain that. And it should have a logic to it. And I think that's the key. Once, if you say too much, and you see how I've chosen my words, you're pushing things. You're pushing things.
I got
you. But whatever it is, and the total example of it is, Mr. Fuller, you remember the hubcaps on your head?
Mm-hmm.
Just look at it this way. Person comes to you and says, I believe you should wear a hubcap while you're doing whatever you do with your partner. You want to know how you believe this is an improvement.
That's a good point.
That's the point. You don't need to go any further about, how is this an improvement? And I think that's where you can, I've been able to navigate, the whole issue. You do what you do, but when you bring it to me, I need you to suggest how this is an improvement. Because if you can,
that's logic, Bill. That's applying logic, and that's what Mr. Fuller wanted us to do, is to use logic. I'm going to get Nicolette in. Nicolette, you ready to come on? Let's wave your hand. I'll put you on the stage before we get out of here. Nicolette, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Admitted Fuller's Counter Racist Code show. Well, I think we lost Nicolette. We're gonna wrap it up for today, and let's go back to what Bill said. When you're looking at topics, whether it's religious confusion, sexual confusion, and somebody brings something to you, a different way of, I guess, looking at sex, for example, if that's the example he's using, you can ask yourself, is this an improvement? If you're bringing this to me, is this an improvement? So what I will just say this: live and let live. Okay, you don't have to force your way of living on me. I'm not going to force my way of living on you. At all times, I'm not going to try to stop you from living the way you live. Don't you try to stop me from living the way I live. And at all times, keep in mind that there is a system out here that's itching, that's chopping at the bit to create division. They want you to take the bait. And if I get too political, I saw this in living color during the past election. And religion and sexual confusion was on full display. They both were on full display. Just don't keep taking the bait. Everybody has a right to have their own opinion, to live their life, as long as they're not breaking the law. Do your thing. But don't make your issue that's not a issue that's going to help us advance justice and dismantle this system. Don't make that paramount, because it will be used as a tool of confusion and distraction. All right, what we're going to do, we're going to wrap things up here. Mr. Bobby, any final words? Let me get you hold on, Mr. Bobby. Go ahead, Mr. Bobby. Any final words?
Nicholas Davis said, stay on code, and we do not have to agree, but we do have to work together. And to that, I say yes. ProduceJustice.com.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Well, that's going to wrap up another show today. And I appreciate the feedback from Bill, Terrence, the many comments that Mr. Fuller Mr. Bobby was able to read during the show. And this is your show. This is your show just as much as it is mine and Mr. Bobby. Mr. Fuller birthed this show. This is Neely Fuller's Counter Racist Code show. Now, what we do as programmers and producers, we have to make it educational, informative, interesting. It's not just sit here to read the book. We do some of that too. We're trying to get some logic going. Mr. Fuller said this, and it stuck for me. It sticks with me practically every day when I'm going about my daily life, that we haven't solved this problem. He hasn't solved it. He was here for 95 years. Malcolm didn't solve it. Marcus Garvey didn't solve it. Dr. King didn't solve it. The Kennedy brothers didn't solve it. LBJ, the Great Society didn't solve it. The people on the right, conservatives, haven't solved it. This problem is still going on. So until it's solved, we all can make our own suggestions on how to solve it. And we forget if enough of us on the same page, then we can make a difference. And that's what we do here every day, to try to rally wheels, get our thoughts together. On that note, we're going to end on the words of Mr. Fuller. We'll see you next Tuesday right here on the Counter Racist Code Show. I am Gate. My co-host is Mr. Bobby. And we'll be back. Hold on a second. We'll be back next week.
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time.